All right, let's talk about a huge, expensive puzzle. Why do our own minds, our own instincts, sometimes become the biggest roadblock for our most advanced technology? Today, we're diving into how these hidden biases, especially in the boardroom, can completely sink a multi-million-dollar AI project before it even gets off the ground.
So here it is, the question that keeps so many executives up at night. Why are we pouring all this money into AI only to watch it crash and burn? Well, it turns out the answer isn't usually in the code or the hardware. Nope, it's in us. It's in the psychology of the people leading the charge.
So let's meet the first character, our first villain, really, in this story. You've probably met this person. We're going to call them the overconfident novice. This is the first and maybe the biggest reason AI plans go completely off the rails.
Now, what's driving this character? It's a really fascinating glitch in our thinking called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And it's a wild paradox. The less you actually know about something complex, like AI, the more you think you know. So you're not just making mistakes, you're literally too inexperienced to even see that you're making them. It's a dangerous combination.
And here's what that looks like in the real world. A leader goes to a weekend conference, hears a few buzzwords about AI, and suddenly they feel like they're an expert. This leads them to completely undervalue their own tech teams. The real experts raise a flag, and it's just dismissed as being negative. They mistake hearing about AI for truly understanding it, and that creates these enormous blind spots in their strategy.
Okay, so this isn't just theory. Let's walk through a classic case of what we'll call AI overreach to see how this actually blows up in a company.
You can almost set your watch to it. Stage 1. A leader with just a little bit of knowledge makes a massive, unrealistic demand. Let's replace 80% of our people with chatbots in 6 months. Stage 2, the real experts, the engineers, try to explain why that's a terrible idea, but their warnings are brushed off as resisting the future. Stage 3, surprise, surprise, the system fails spectacularly, and they're scrambling to hire people back just to stop the bleeding. And Stage 4, they end up right back where the experts told them to start in the first place.
And the price for learning this lesson the hard way? A 42% drop in customer satisfaction. Ouch. That's not just a failed project. That's a real, measurable blow to the business, all because of confidence that was never earned.
But here's the thing. The overconfident novice rarely works alone. They usually have an accomplice. And that brings us to our second villain, the charismatic savior.
This is what we call the Messiah effect. It's this tendency we have to look for one single thing to fix all of our problems. Sometimes it's a celebrity CEO, but more and more, the technology itself, AI, gets cast in this role. It's no longer just a tool, it's this magical force that's going to come in and save the entire company.
And this creates a huge gap between the hype and the truth. The promise is always about revolution, easy answers, and quick fixes. But the reality of making AI work is all about the messy details, practical execution, digging in to fix the real root problems, and setting timelines that actually make sense.
Let's see this Messiah effect in the wild. This time, we're heading into a high-stakes financial firm that was desperate for a silver bullet.
Get this. They dropped $15 million on a single AI system that was promised to revolutionize how they invest. But they were so blinded by this idea of a technological savior that they completely ignored the fact that their own data was a mess and their internal processes were broken. And the result? Zero return on that huge investment. The project got scrapped, and the original problems, they were still there. The savior just couldn't save them.
Okay, now here's where it gets really bad. This is the perfect storm. It's when the overconfident novice gets a hold of the idea of a charismatic savior. So you have a leader who doesn't know what they don't know, who suddenly believes that AI is a magic wand. That's a recipe for absolute disaster.
This quote really just nails it. When these two biases get together, it creates a culture where nobody can speak up. The experts are afraid to give critical feedback. The expectations fly off into fantasy land. And when it all inevitably fails, who gets blamed? The tech team, of course, not the fundamentally broken strategy. You can just see how they feed on each other, right? The savior story makes the leader even more sure of themselves. That certainty makes them dismiss the experts.
The project fails because they threw money at the wrong thing, and then the tech team takes the fall. It's a nasty, toxic loop.
Okay, that was a lot of doom and gloom. So how do we actually win this fight? Well, the answer isn't to find a single hero. It's to build a hero's toolkit, a set of strategies and mindsets that any of us can use to make sure AI actually works.
At its core, the solution is about partnership, not replacement. It's about playing to strengths. Let AI do what it's amazing at, crunching huge amounts of data, spotting patterns we'd miss, and handling boring, repetitive tasks. And let humans do what we're amazing at, understanding context, making ethical judgments, and coming up with truly creative solutions.
So, how do you stop the overconfident novice in their tracks? Here's your toolkit. You put systems in place, like technical review boards. You make people prove their big idea works on a small scale first. You build a culture where your experts feel safe enough to say, hey, hold on, this is a bad idea. And you get an outside opinion to check your assumptions.
And how do you avoid that Messiah trap? Simple. You change the vocabulary. Stop saying revolution and start saying evolution. You demand proof, not just flashy promises. And you break those gigantic, world-changing projects down into small, concrete, measurable steps. It's all about keeping things grounded in reality. So what does it look like when you actually use this toolkit? Let's check out one last case study, a blueprint for getting it right.
Look at this. It's the complete opposite of our failure story. It all starts with a dose of humility, a realistic look at where they are. Then they pick one specific, high-value problem to solve. No boiling the ocean here. Then they build it together, with engineers and the people on the factory floor, working side by side. And finally, they roll it out slowly, testing and learning as they go. It's patient, it's practical, and you know what? It works.
And that really brings us to the final, most important question. It's not about being smart enough for AI or having enough money for AI. The real question is, are you humble enough for AI? Humble enough to know what you don't know, humble enough to listen to your experts, and humble enough to see AI for what it is. Not a magic savior, but an incredibly powerful tool that requires real wisdom to use correctly. So, is your organization there yet? Thanks for joining.